morning, everyone. Welcome to our July CGBN webinar. I hope you're all doing fantastic today. Before we begin, please know that this session is being recorded. To ensure a smooth experience, we kindly ask anyone who's not presenting or part of the panel to mute themselves and turn off their video recording. Our session today will run for an hour and a half. We'll start with presentations, followed by the Q&A segment for the presenters. Once the Q&A concludes, we will end the recording and transition into the needs and wants segment. If you have any listings or trade missions to share, please let us know. We'd be happy to feature them on the CGBN page. After today's session, the recording will be available on the CGBN YouTube channel and the CGBN page. In the meantime, please take a moment to share your information in the chat, including your name, email, phone number, and any needs or wants you'd like to address. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dimitri Lockman, and I'm the current chair of CGBN, as well as the president-elect for NICAR. I'd also like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to our past CGBN chairs, Ahmed Badat, Teresa Mueller, and Bill Caden, for their invaluable contributions and continued support. Thank you all for joining us today. Today's webinar is called From the Golden Visa to Tax Reform, an update on NAR advocacy in Washington, D.C. Now, I'd like to introduce our co-moderators, Jeff Lasky and Teresa Mueller. Jeff, Teresa, it's all you.
Thanks, Dimitro. Good morning, everybody. It's my honor, and we'll get started with Mr. Russell Riggs. I'm going to take a moment just to introduce Russell to everybody. He is the Director of Environmental and Sustainability Policy with the National Association of Realtors, works out of Washington, D.C. For the past 27 years, Russell's advocated on behalf of realtors on energy, environment, sustainability, property rights, and natural resource issues before Congress and federal regulatory agencies. Russell also serves as the Advocacy Liaison to the Realtors Land Institute, the Global and Business Affairs Group, and the Resort and Second Home Group. Prior to his position with NAR, Russell held positions with the U.S. Department of Energy, the National Governors Association, and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Russell holds a bachelor's degree from Virginia Commonwealth University and master's degrees from Tufts University and New York University. He resides with his family in Falls Church, Virginia. If you guys have not had an opportunity to hear Mr. Riggs before, this is going to be a real pleasure for you. He delivers this material in a very interesting way. So the pressure's on now.
Yeah, I would say. I'm not sure I can even reach those expectations, but I much appreciated. Thank you so much for the invitation. I've spoken to this group at least once, if not twice before, and so thank you for the invitation again, and great to speak with you, to appear, honored to appear before you. It's, technology is a great thing. It allows me to do these types of presentations, on a regular basis, and provide you the information about what's happening in Washington on the issues that you care about. So I'm just going to dive right in. I went ahead and shared my screen, and hopefully you can see it. It's all good. You can see my screen. Thanks, Dimitro. So no presentation about NAR. NAR's advocacy efforts would be remiss if I did not mention RPAC, the Realtors Political Action Committee, which is really allows your voice to be loud and clear in Washington, D.C. We couldn't do what we do here without your investment in RPAC, your contribution in allowing your voice to be heard. This is an old saying. Some of you have probably heard me say it before. If you aren't at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And so RPAC basically allows us to be at the table with policymakers, with decision makers, and allows us to share your perspectives on these very important housing and real estate issues. RPAC is unusual for the fact that it is nonpartisan. We support whoever supports realtor issues. Democrat, Republican, as you know, that spans ideologies. Conservative, liberal, those labels don't really mean a whole lot to us. If you are a supporter of realtor issues, that means then you will be supported by RPAC. And we're effective at all levels of government, from City Hall to Capitol Hill. And the majority of the funds, RPAC funds, stay at the state and local level. We make sure we are investing in these policymakers at the very beginning of their career, and we follow them all the way up to Congress. And we've had some fantastic successes. We are constantly supporting housing supply solutions, which we know is the critical issue across the country. Evan's going to be getting into this later after my presentation, but we had some great wins in tax reform and the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we're also making sure that flood insurance, which is important, is continuously protected and make sure that that is a viable program. And of course, these are just three that I picked out. There are many, many more, but these are just three out of the grab bag of victories that we have. So let me just jump into some of the issues that I know you care about. This presentation is probably going to go too long, so I'm not going to be able to get through all of my slides, but I wanted to at least get it out there because I know these slides will be available to the folks after this event. So I just wanted to make sure that all the information was included on the slides. I want to just briefly talk about some of the visa programs that we have going on, the housing supply, restrictions on foreign buyers, and then just touch on some, if we can get to it, touch on some global trends that I see kind of circulating and happening and impacting economies all over the world. Well, let's talk about a couple of the visa programs that I know you have an interest in. The first one is the H-2B temporary worker visa. This visa, H-2B visa, allows U.S. employers to hire guest workers to fill temporary, usually about 6 months, for non-agricultural jobs in the United States. This program is administered by the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Labor. In 2024, Texas had the highest number of H-2B workers, followed by Florida with 65% of the visa holders. NAR supports this because real estate developments use H-2B programs or H-2B visas to hire hospitality, landscaping staff that are critical to their operations, as well as wait staff, lifeguards, ski lift operators, all those kinds of jobs that really add value to the real estate development. H-2B visas are an important part of that. But I did also want to mention that for the H-2B program to work, before an employer ever goes to the H-2B visa program, they have to do an extensive process of trying to get that job, trying to get an American worker into that job. They have to advertise in the newspaper, they have to advertise on LinkedIn, they have to jump through a lot of hoops to make sure that that they exhaust all other opportunities to get an American worker. Oh, and they have to prove that to the Department of Labor and Homeland Security. Once they've done that, then they can turn to the pool of H-2B visa holders. So the current status for this program is it is currently operational, but backlogs exist. And that's the case I think you'll find with all of these various visas is they're all operational, but there's a lot of backlogs. There are no current reform or modernization bills introduced in this Congress, but this is a very popular program. Department of Homeland Security and Labor recently approved an additional over 64,000 new H-2B visas for this year, over and above the 66,000 that is authorized by Congress. So these new visas, these H-2B visas go very quickly because it's a very popular program.
Hey, Russell, is there
Yes, sir.
any effect on this at all right now by the current administration, right? Is there any kind of, the backlog, anything like that because of that?
Well, the problem is, there will probably be staffing cuts at both DHS and labor, and so that's going to mean additional backlog issues, I think. Certainly at the very surface level, when you have less staff to move these visa programs through the process, it's going to take longer to get that done. There will be, at the very least, there are going to be additional backlogs.
Thank you.
Yep. So the EB-5 investor visa, what is this? This is if you are a foreign investor who invests in a new U.S. business, and these amounts change, but right now it's $1.05 million standard or $800,000 in a targeted employment area, and you can show that you have created at least 10 jobs. This places foreign investors on a glide path to citizenship. NAR supports the EB-5 program because these investments stimulate economic development, job creation, and home ownership. Economic development because a lot of times EB-5 is part of the capital stack if you're developing a multi-use type of facility, if you're developing a real estate development, that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, if you've ever been to the Washington, D.C. building, right next door, it's a big multi-use, it's got retail on the bottom floor, it's got office buildings, and it's got condominiums. That was partially done through capital raised through the EB-5 program. So the program is operational, but as I said, backlogs exist. Recently, the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act, which instituted accountability, oversight, and transparency reforms, NAR supported that because of the fact that in the past, there had been some bad apples. We weren't sure where the money was coming from. We weren't sure how the money was being used. And so we supported this EB-5 Reform Act to get more accountability and oversight, transparency into the program so that everyone understood where the money was coming from and where it was going. The Regional Center program, which is also another important aspect of the EB-5 program because it helps to compile funds. That was renewed. It expired in June of 2021, and we were part of an active coalition to renew that through 2027.
Russell, I've gotten a couple of questions off the chat.
Okay.
One of the questions is, what is the Trump card program, and has it been?
That was literally my next slide.
Next slide. So we'll wait for that.
Well, okay. No, go ahead. Yeah. What was the other question?
All right. Yeah. Go ahead with it, then. Yeah. Sure. No, that's fine.
I'll go with that. I'm going to skip that, but I'll go to this. The 5 million Trump gold card has been proposed. So what is this? President Trump has announced a new gold card visa program to attract foreign investors. For $5 million, this visa offers a pathway to U.S. citizenship. The initiative will generate revenue to help reduce the national debt. There has been a website that has been launched, trumpcard.gov, that has actually been launched, and it's a way for you to sign up to register for the card whenever they move forward with all the other details about this. The challenging part of this is the fact that it's unclear as to whether this program will replace the existing EB-5 investor program, or will it be a supplement to the EB-5 program? At this point, really no additional information about this card. other than the trumpcard.gov, which you can go on and register. And so whenever they move forward with the additional details and the actual visa program, they'll have a list of folks who are interested.
Cool. There was another question. This is from Pradeep. Can you guide on taxes on foreign remittances? And I'm not quite sure where he's going with that. So
yeah, I would refer that to Evan, who's our tax expert. I'm sure he has some insight into that.
cool. Yeah. So yeah, we'll wait on that one.
Okay.
Marcia asked for you to repeat the name of the DC EB5 project.
Oh, I'm not sure of the name. Capital Crossing, I think, something like that.
Something like that.
Do you
It's
have
next
a
door.
street address, anything like that I could
No,
look
I'm
up?
sorry, I don't have that off the top of my head. It's next door to the NAR building.
Okay, that's easy enough. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have the street address. I don't. Sorry.
Call staff over there and they'll send you the address. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russell.
No, okay. So one thing that we were discussing with the Global Business and Alliances Committee was Senator Gallego from New Mexico is interested in proposing some legislation that would use the EB5 visa program to encourage residential projects, housing projects. The legislation would primarily focus on amending the regional center portion of the statute to direct funds and encourage using these funds for housing projects, affordable housing. And so some of the ways it would kind of direct funds, channel funds into these housing projects would be to, for example, reduces the investment threshold for residential housing, expanding the definition of residential housing project to include single family, missing middle, and multifamily. Prioritizes visa application process for housing that receives funding. Allows temporary construction jobs to fulfill the program's job creation part of that. So it's an interesting idea, and we presented this to the GBA committee, and they provided some fantastic input and feedback on this proposal. We provided that information to Senator Gallego's staff, and we're hoping that some legislation will be able to be introduced and move forward that would help that. You know, there's a lot of issues related to housing supply, and we're looking at, there's no silver bullet, and I'll get to this when we get to the housing supply issue. There's no silver bullet here for housing supply. There's a lot of different ways that we can approach this and take a bite out of that and help. And you know, this is just one other way that we can help get housing supply into the marketplace. Right. So this is what we we're just talking about. Construction has not kept pace with demand. Estimated 6 to 8 million new units are needed to meet that demand. And that is information and research that NAR created. There's no silver bullet, as I've said before, but solutions include modernizing, number one, modernizing our current zoning laws that impede construction. Because there are lots of zoning laws in the books that makes it harder to build new housing. Reduce permitting and regulatory burdens. Encourage residential rehab opportunities and accessory dwelling units. Make it easier for ADUs to be built. Encourage commercial to residential conversions, which is, you know, basically using utilizing current commercial buildings. And if, you know, it's not going to work everywhere, but certainly there's a lot of commercial buildings that are underutilized, not utilized at all, that could be converted into residential housing. Capping or reducing development fees. And there's also a new joint task force on underutilized federal land. And this is basically, basically a way to try to get unused federal property back into active development. Now you think, well, that's just, deserts in the Southwest next to Salt Lake City or next to Albuquerque. But when you think about it, the federal government also owns lots of land in urban and suburban areas, and not just land, but buildings. And so there could be a great opportunity for that to happen as well, to convert some of those empty lots or underutilized federal buildings, unused federal buildings, into housing as well. So the Joint Task Force on Underutilized Federal Land is just getting going. It's just beginning to scope out its purpose and figuring out who's going to be on it, who's going to be a member of that, and so we're keeping a very close eye on how all that's shaping up. I just wanted to, and I know I've only got just a couple more minutes, but I did want to talk a little bit about this issue of restrictions on foreign property ownership. There has been a recent uptick in efforts to restrict foreign ownership of real property. There are a couple of current regulatory programs that kind of monitor and provide oversight for this issue. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. is an interagency committee that reviews foreign investment transactions to determine their impact on national security. There's also something called the AFIDA, the Agricultural Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, which collects and disseminates information on foreign transactions and ownership of primarily agricultural land. So there's already a couple of regulatory entities that are monitoring and reviewing all of these different land and property transactions that go on in the U.S. There have been some congressional legislation, the AFIDA Improvements Act, the PASS Act Promoting Agricultural Safeguards and Security Act, which will prevent certain persons, that's, it's a quote, from China, Russia, and Iran, and North Korea from investing, basically purchasing agricultural land, and also beefs up the review process under CFIUS, as would the Farmland Act, which would strengthen oversight and transparency of AFIDA and make sure they are really on top of monitoring and reviewing all land transactions, foreign transactions related to agricultural land. There's also a lot of states that are getting involved in this issue. Some cover citizens from targeted countries. For example, Florida's law applies to citizens from certain foreign countries. A bill in Georgia applies to citizens of targeted countries, but others are more focused on foreign governments and businesses. For example, a proposed bill in Michigan applies only to foreign businesses, foreign government agencies, trustees, or fiduciaries. So it's kind of getting at the business or foreign government angle. We have some concerns about this whole issue, and we want to make sure we're on top of this. Restrictions on foreign property ownership would have an economic impact. And we just released some new numbers just literally a couple of days ago, where now it's climbed in 2024 and into 2025 over $55 billion of investment by foreign investors. So that's a significant economic impact if you impede that foreign investment. A market imbalance. Without foreign buyers, sales of high-end properties may slow. International relations. Restrictions may lead to retaliation by other countries. And finally, legal and constitutional challenges, such as discrimination lawsuits, because these restrictions could violate fair housing laws. We have been working this issue for the past, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. We are engaging with regulators and policymakers to prevent bad actors from acquiring real estate and make sure there's a lot of education going on. We are providing technical assistance and resources to states. But, I think the bottom line is that NAR supports property ownership for all qualified buyers, regardless of national origin, but we want to make sure that there are strong national security safeguards put in place. So I think it's 11:30 my time. I've been going for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to stop here. There's some other stuff that, you'll be able to look at because this is going to be posted somewhere or you'll be provided it. So I'm going to stop sharing now.
Russell, I'm going to jump in for a quick second before we turn it over to Teresa and Evan. So I just want to be clear on what you've presented here. It's obviously the position NAR has taken on, say, domestic investment, domestic property. There's a lot of red tape. They're trying to work on making it easier for builders to build, right? I mean, bottom line, right? But it also appears that, and again, I understand the political ramifications. They're trying to strike the balance here, but they understand the concept that the restrictions on foreign investment that are going on isn't helping at all, right? And in some
no, not at all. Yeah, right. I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, right. And our state associations have been pretty adamant about when this kind of a bill has come up in their state legislature, that they've really taken the side of property rights and making sure that foreign investors are able to do these transactions in an efficient and effective way, provided there are adequate national security safeguards put in place as well. So it's all about striking that balance, and I think right now there's a lot of discussion going on amongst the various national NAR committees about this issue, but we're all about making sure that we are protecting property rights, but also having adequate national security safeguards.
Cool. And Marcia asked if the Florida law is a blanket restriction for foreign investment from China.
Pretty much, and that was that was put in place, and I believe the Florida Association of Realtors is in the midst of litigating that law right now.
All right, cool. Alrighty, sir. Wonderful presentation. I don't think I overpromised at all. That was very helpful. Teresa, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff and Russell. And just as a reminder, everyone knows that this is recorded so they can come back to that. And the slides will be on the CGBN page within a week or so you can review those slides. And I understand he has additional slides that he was not able to cover. And you can always come back and ask us questions later. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, as well as we will take live questions at the end. I would like to, by the way, I'm Teresa Mueller, and always love to be here for CGBN and appreciate everyone showing up. I would like to introduce our next presenter, Evan Lydiard, he is the National Association of Realtors Director of Tax Policy. He has a long history, starting with a degree in accounting, had his own practice, and has been with NAR for over a decade, and that was after serving 20 years as a senior tax policy advisor to Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah, the former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. So he has a wealth of information that he would like to share with us. And if there's anything that you also want to mention, Evan, feel free. You have quite the grand experience to share with us.
Well, thank you very much, Teresa, and welcome everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to present along with my old friend and colleague, Russell. And also, what could be more interesting and fun than talking about taxes on a Tuesday? And especially when we're talking about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Now, I know you've all heard a lot about this. It's been going on. It's been a very, very hot topic for months and months now. In fact, we've been talking about it at NAR since last year. And we've known since the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that something like this would be coming up, because it was a great bill in 2017 for the most part when we got the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But as many of you know, big parts of it were set to expire at the end of 2025. And so it became quite imperative that something be done right away to take care of this. Now, I want to spend just a little time talking about why it's called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And this gets to the why it's been such a difficult and amazing bill in many ways. As you know, the results of last November's election ended up with Republican control of the White House and small margins of control of the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. But many of you know, maybe not though, everybody, that there is a special provision in the law that allows certain bills to be to bypass what's called a filibuster. The Senate normally, the United States Senate normally has to have 60 votes to get anything done. But one of the big exceptions is for fiscally related bills. If certain things are met, certain requirements are met, they can be passed with a bare majority. And since the Republicans don't have any more close to 60 votes in the Senate, they have to rely on this particular type of bill called reconciliation. And so early in the process, the president made it clear that he wanted to put all of the priorities for him and the Republicans in one big, beautiful bill, because it's a very hard bill to get done, but you don't want to do it twice if you don't have to. And so it's been amazing to me to see that the Republicans have been as successful in getting this done as they have this year. We've seen reconciliation bills many times before over the past decades. When President Biden was in office, we saw the Inflation Reduction Act was a reconciliation bill that needed this type of treatment. When President Obama was in office, we got the Obamacare passed this way, and many other bills have been done in this manner, but there's been a lot of failures too, including President Biden's Build Back Better bill he started out with. Anyway, the goal the president put forward was to actually get it formulated through and sent through both houses of Congress and passed into his desk by July 4th of this year. And I didn't think it was ever going to happen. And many observers thought the same thing, that it was just impossible to do it. But to show you what command the president has over his own party, he was able to persuade members who were otherwise leaning against it to go for it. And against all odds, he was able to get it passed, and it was signed. It was to his desk, and it was signed by July 4th. And I, as a skeptic, was proven wrong, and many others were as well. But what we have is what we have now is what they worked on, and we've had a very hectic several months getting to this point with lots of ideas being put forward. But what I want to present to you now would be the results of this bill, to tell you the biggest areas of tax that affect real estate. And so I will turn to the next slide that gives us a highlight. There are 10 of these highlights that I want to show impact the biggest part for real estate. This first one was a continuation of the biggest and most important provision in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, and that was to provide independent contractors and owners of pass-through businesses with a 20% qualified business income deduction, also known as 199 Cap A. I think you're all familiar with it. It essentially gives non-corporations a big tax cut if you're in business. And this was great. The only thing wrong with it was set to expire at the end of 2025. And so it's been one of NAR's highest priorities, if not the highest priority, is to get this extended. Happy to say that it was not only extended and made permanent, but it was slightly improved. These improvements aren't big ones, but they're nice to have, especially if you're a higher income taxpayer and you facing the phase-out range. I won't get into the technical details of that. But it also adds a minimum deduction for those who are small-time operators, where they can get at least $400 deduction. So the big thing, though, is it's made permanent, and it's there, and we don't have all of our 90% of NAR members are independent contractors, and we're set to look at a big tax increase if this had not happened. So that's the best news of it. Secondly, though, is right behind it, the reduced tax rates and the higher standard deduction, the higher child credit, those things were all also products of the 2017 Act. They were set to expire. They've all been extended permanently and even made better. The big thing here is that we won't notice any huge impact to the economy that would have happened had Congress not acted and 2026 come along and had a reversal of what happened in 2017, or what was effective in early 2018. Now will continue instead of reversing. And the problem is, with tariffs and everything else going on and shaking up the economy, about the worst thing you can imagine happening might have been this tax rates going back up if Congress not acted. So that we don't have to worry about that anymore. And from the real estate point of view, at least the residential point of view, is that this means that there won't be any big shakeups to the number of people who might be looking for a home and trying to afford a home. It's not necessarily going to make homes more affordable, but it will allow households, because they have continuing lower taxes, to perhaps be able to afford them. Moving on to 3, this is one all of us very familiar with, the SALT deduction limit, or SALT cap, state and local taxes. It's been set now at $10,000 maximum since 2018, and it was expected to, it was in law that there would be no limit at all in 2026 when it expired, but we knew that wasn't going to happen because Republicans weren't going to let it go away altogether. This has been one of the most heated debates in the whole tax bill as to what to do about this, and luckily we had a group of Republicans living in blue states, the higher tax states, that said we have to have a big increase in the SALT cap or we're not going to vote for this. And it didn't look like they were going to get very much of it for a while, but in the end, they got a nice quadrupling of this $10,000 limit up to $40,000. But it's got 2 things wrong with it. Number one, it only goes until through 2029, and then it's set to go back to $10,000. And second, if you're making over $500,000 a year, you're going to see limitations on this, but not lower than the $10,000 that will continue. And it'll phase out at a 30% rate to the extent you have over $500,000 in modified adjusted gross income. But overall, that's great news for the next 5 years, because it starts in 2025, and we see that going up to $40,000 for those living in those higher cost states or having high property taxes. It's going to be a big benefit. Number 4, this is more for the commercial side. The opportunity zones, which have been quite exciting, especially in the beginning of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act days, have been extended permanently and enhanced in many ways. I won't go through all the details here due to time, but essentially, though, they say that the opportunity zones have to be redesignated by the state governors every 10 years and confirmed by the Treasury Department. And they did put in a lower income requirement, so that has to be even more of an economic, tough economic area, 70% instead of 80% of the median income. And then they changed it around a little bit, some of the technicalities. There's a rolling 5-year deferral period now. But that should be a good thing and more stable. And we did lose the 15% step up after 7 years, but the investments starting under the new program, starting after 2026, will give a 10% basis increase after 5 years, just like the old one did. But if you are investing in what's called a rural opportunity zone, there's a bigger tax benefit, 3 times as big as under a regular one. So it's going to enhance the opportunities for things to happen in rural areas, which is great. And it also makes it easier to invest in them because there's a lower improvement threshold. So that's all good things. A lot of excitement about that. Moving on, for those who are in family businesses that are worth quite a bit and they're interested in passing those family businesses on to the next generation, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provided for what was now this year, $15 million per person of threshold of estate and gift taxes, but it was set to go back down to about $5 million per person had they not acted. Well, the new bill puts it at $15 million per person, and it's inflation adjusted. So it's going to be a very high threshold. So many family businesses won't have to worry about passing those assets on to their children and grandchildren and so on, like was expected could happen. The next area, number 6, is we were hoping for more in this area of producing more homes and places for people to live in. But they did come together on a big improvement for the low-income housing tax credit. It wasn't everything that had been asked for, but it was expected that this is going to create over 1 million new apartments over the next 10 years, just by increasing the state allocations by 12% and a couple of other technical changes. So that's going to make a big difference in that area. Number 7 is a smaller one, but it could be significant for you or some of the people that you work with, and that is that 529 education plans have been changed so that people who are getting education for licensing purposes or getting their license credentials and so forth for the first time can now put money in a 529 plan and have that paid in a way that where the money can grow on a tax-free basis. Again, on the commercial side, number 8, we have some nice changes and some reversals of tax law that was hitting some of the big companies, including some real estate companies, where there's a loss of bonus depreciation. That has been reversed, and now we have 100% immediate expensing of equipment, leasehold improvements, and non-residential interior improvements that's made permanent. So if you have a commercial building and you're fixing up the inside of it, you can expense the whole amount instead of having to depreciate it over a 15-year basis. And number 9, for those who might be investing or interested in a factory, and this is not everybody, I recognize, but it's a big deal for those who are in this. For the next 4 years, there's 100% expensing for new factory buildings that are creating products. And if anybody has any specific questions about that, we can talk about it later, or you can email me. And finally, for certain real estate companies or larger companies that have been faced with an interest expense limitation of 30%, that has been made easier now by some changes or reversal of the tax law that dealt with a limitation that was there. We won't get into those details at all either, because most of our members are smaller than this, and they don't have to choose between depreciation and amortization and interest expense. But for larger ones, they've had this problem, and the good news for those is that has been made easier with this bill. The next slide, just as notable for this one big beautiful bill, for what it did not include is what it does include, because as it developed over the past weeks and months, there were some pretty scary things that were being talked about by the Republicans. Keep in mind, Democrats didn't have any say-so over this bill at all, because there was no Democratic support for this bill, and it was made possible because it's this one big beautiful bill or reconciliation bill that needed only almost all Republicans to get on it. But some of those Republicans were talking about some things we didn't like at all. Now, we didn't hear about it so much this time, but there's always some threat, it seems, over the past decade or two to 1031. And people are always worried about it being limited or taken away. But the good news is it's not touched at all in this bill. The second one, there was a lot of talk about replacing, if they wanted to raise the SALT cap from $10,000 to a higher number, some Republicans were saying, let's just put a cap on business, state, and local taxes. They weren't thinking about what that might mean for real estate. And our advocacy group quickly educated them by saying, look, real estate outfits pay a lot in property tax, and property tax can often be a higher expense than salaries and wages are. If you take away SALT deductibility, it's going to devastate real estate firms, real estate investors, and we were able to talk them out of doing that because they quickly saw, they hadn't been thinking about it, but they quickly saw that we were right. That could have been really bad. So there's no business SALT limits in this bill at all. Believe it or not, there also had some Republicans that were talking about getting rid of the mortgage interest deduction on principal residence. Not very many, but it was out there. And the reason it was is because we had some big cutbacks back in 2017 in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And the result of that is that only higher income people can now take the MID, especially with the SALT limits factored in. So some are thinking, well, we can pay for part of this bill and make it less of a high cost to the deficit by repealing or limiting MID further. Well, we quickly jumped on that as well, and happy to say that that did not happen at all either. Number 5, you've heard about this, especially if you're into commercial real estate, and that's carried interest. In fact, the president was pushing, and that surprised me a lot because we thought he, of all people, would want to protect commercial real estate, but he was pushing for a change in the law of carried interest so that it's not treated as capital gains anymore, but ordinary income. But that did not come about either, I'm happy to say. And then finally, for NAR itself and other trade associations, there were some last-minute threats that would have raised some taxes on tax-exempt organizations like us, particularly in connection with logos and trademarks, which would have hurt us because of our trademark. But we were able to educate them and to beat those back, as it were, as well. And so great things were left out of the bill, made it much, much better. And finally, I want to cover who the winners are. And I think a lot of this is you can deduce from what I've already said, but the big winner, independent contractors, sole proprietors, those who can take the 199 Cap A deduction, qualified business income, 20%. That's great. Right behind that are those who have been limited by their SALT cap on deducting their state and local taxes. They come out a winner for the next 5 years. Much more limited class is number 3, family businesses who want to pass those on. Very important, though, for those who are impacted, and they come out a big winner on this. And then number 4, commercial real estate owners and investors who want to improve that property and who will be buying equipment as well as interior improvements or leasehold improvements. Number 5, people who need or provide affordable housing will come out with a lot more ability to create that affordable housing over the next 10 years. Number 6, those of us who want to, that care about opportunity zones, people who have capital gains that they want to redeploy and do it in a way that they don't have to pay the tax right away. And those who are living in those areas where that will be called opportunity zones or rural opportunity zones especially are winners in this bill. And finally, everybody, and it's not everybody, it's like 60 to 70% of the American tax-paying public will come out ahead what they would have been had this bill not passed, because their taxes won't be going up as it was set in law for them to be doing in January of 2026. And with that, let me see what questions there might be.
Thank you very much, Evan. There are a couple questions, so I'll come back to Marcia's in a moment. She had a question about low income tax credit. But listening to this presentation, I think a lot of us would say, what's an opportunity for real estate agents? So that's for both of you, both Evan and Russell. If you say, okay, because of this big, beautiful bill and what we're experiencing politically, what are the opportunities for us as real estate agents?
Well, number one, from the tax point of view, number one is that chances are very, very good that they would get to continue taking advantage of the 199 Cap A 20% deduction of their business income, which is a big tax cut. A second one, though, would be that we'll have a lot more potential buyers of real estate because of this tax cut than what we would have had. It's sometimes hard to get excited about something that keeps current law, what we've been living with. But what we really have to compare this to is what would have happened had this bill not passed. And it would have been easy for this bill not to pass, or it would have been easy for this to gone on for month after month and had a lot of problems passing it. Eventually, I think they would have found a way, whether they would have had to bring Democrats into the mix or not. But it's not easy to pass a huge bill like this, especially one that adds so much to the deficit. So it's from the tax point of view, it's a big thing compared to what it would have been. But it's going to be hard for Republicans to get a lot of credit for this, because many voters will say, well, I was doing just fine with the way it was, and they're not going to see it from what would have been, because a catastrophe has been averted here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Marcia has a question, and then after that, Pradeep. Marcia, you want to ask your question?
Thanks, Teresa. I'd be happy to. Hi, Evan. I'm thinking back the last time that I was in your ear about extending the forgiveness for back when we were in that hell of a mess back in 2008 for debt forgiveness. And you said, I don't think so, but we fought it and we got it through. So thank goodness for you and the good people at NAR and all our PAC investors. Okay, so my question is regarding the highlights for tax provisions impacting real estate. Your number 6 was stated low-income housing tax credit. Was that referring to a housing tax credit for the developer? And is that only for rental properties? I'm a little confused.
Yes, it's for rental properties. It's for apartments, basically. And what the state housing agencies, there's one in every state, they get an allocation from the federal government of a certain amount of credit. And then they work with the developers and investors to decide who gets it and where it goes. And it's based on the population and so on. But there's a bigger pie now. And that's what the bottom line is. There's more money to be spread around. And that means there'll be an estimated 1.22 million more apartments built over the next 10 years than what otherwise.
Following up to that question, I'm curious why it wasn't expanded to include properties built, for ownership, since we all know wealth creation comes from ownership, right? So just curious why that wasn't a thought. I know we can't go back and reverse. We can't Sunday quarterback now, or is that called Monday, I believe? Monday quarterback.
Great question, and we tried. We had a number of ideas before the Congress and key members of the tax committees of ways to increasing supply. The More Homes on the Market Act, which increased inventory as well. But this bill, and I didn't talk about the fiscal aspects of it, but it's very finely balanced, because we had a group of Republicans very concerned about the deficit part of it, others concerned about the Medicaid cuts that were in the bill. And it's balanced on a needle, basically. And if we'd have added some of these other things, it could have fallen one way or the other. And those things are all expensive. And we hope there'll be another opportunity later this year or next year to do some more of those other things. But frankly, we're very lucky to get as many positive things in this bill as we did, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pradeep, if you want to ask your question, and then next Ahmed. We are coming up on the hour, so after that we will end the recording, and we can always ask questions later, and we will have these slides available. Pradeep, if you would like to go.
Hi, Evan, I have a couple of questions for you, and one and foremost is taxes on foreign remittances, because this particularly affects global transactions. If somebody is buying property in his homeland, would this be considered as remittances taxable?
Well, they did put a 1% excise tax on those foreign payments from the United States to people at home, back in the home country. I haven't studied that very much. I didn't consider that too much of a real estate, but it probably has some connection there, obviously, or you wouldn't be asking about it. 1% excise tax will be another discouragement, I suppose. It gets into the immigration policy, I suppose. But it's there, and I'm not sure who is behind it.
All right. And another important question is because most of our associations at different levels, we have substantial funds invested in securities, and these are all unrelated business income for them. So is there any relief on taxes on unrelated business income for non-for-profit organizations?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. We're still trying to assimilate all of this information. It's a huge bill. It's got a lot of things. Somebody mentioned the gambling loss thing earlier, and I saw that, but I haven't really studied it at all because I didn't think it applied to things I need to know right away. But you never know what somebody's going to ask.
No problem. And another is Trump saving accounts. I think we heard that any newborn babies after 25.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The so-called baby bond things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting. It's a temporary thing, and it's interesting. There'll be $1,000 deposited for babies born under. I don't remember the exact time frame. It's a couple of years, I think, and then there'll be people can add deposits to that, and it'll grow on a tax-free basis. And the one thing that does tie into real estate and home ownership is that one of the ways they can take it out. One of the acceptable ways of spending it, besides an education, would be to be a first-time home buyer. So, in to that extent, we love the precedent. It's going to be a while before any of these babies are getting ready to buy their first home, but it's great to have something like that in the law as a forebear for other programs later on, because we've been pushing for that kind of thing. So it's a good start.
So when these drawings are made after, say, when the babies reach age of 18 years or so, would that be tax-free or that would be taxed at that time?
Well, they won't have to pay tax on the earnings if they use it for one of the provided ways of doing it, whether it's for education or buying a first home or a couple of other things, I think.
No problem. Thank you. I think that finishes it, man.
Thank you very much. And our last question will be from Ahmed. If you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, great presentation, Russell and Evan. Quick question for you, Russell. Has NAR made any approach to the Trump administration to get to basically tell us what's the gold card, a little bit more detail on the gold card, because it looks like it's basically for a rich person, some of the rich, but it's easy to buy a $5 million property, come in and out at any time they wish to. It's not a long-term investment. Whereas with the EB5 is an investment that continues.
Correct.
So
we haven't been able to get any additional information about the gold card. They're keeping that pretty close to their vest, and we're hoping to get some additional information. But I think you're right in terms of, and like I said in my slide, it's just really going to go to reduce the national debt. It's not going to go to job creation or property ownership or economic development. It's just going to be, $5 million will go to reduce debt. So, as far as we know, that might change in terms of how the funds will be used. But at this point, that's our understanding, and there's really not a lot of information out there. We've asked, and they have not provided anything additional. So,
and Evan, just a quick. With the Opportunities Act, it seems it has been great for the investors, but what impact has it had on poorer communities? Because that hasn't been, basically we still see the status quo is still the same.
We don't know as much as we'd like. And there's a basic reason for that. When the Opportunity Zone program was first passed back in 2017, it had some reporting requirements and other things that would help Treasury to track all this, but they were taken out of the bill. They were taken out of the bill because it's a reconciliation bill, and there's something called the Byrd Rule that says that certain provisions that don't have a big impact on the Treasury, one way or the other, are extraneous. and they can be removed. So the Democrats took them out. And the members who have been interested in opportunity zones have been trying to put them back in since then, but it has never happened. For some reason, nobody challenged them. They have those same reporting requirements in again this time, but nobody took them out for whatever reason. So we don't have as much information about what happened since 2018 till now in the opportunity zone area. And we have a lot of folks that have anecdotal stories of it's been great. Others saying no, it's not been. It's been a big rip off for a big giveaway for the wealthy. Nobody can prove it because we don't have enough reporting, but we should have that going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you both.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you to Evan and Russell for today's presentation. The recording and slides will be on the NYCAR CGBN page. The recording will also be on the NYCAR YouTube channel. If you have suggestions for future topics, we would love to hear it. You can contact us at info@nycar.com, and happy to go over that and any suggestions, questions, etc. I would encourage everyone to also look at the C5 plus CCIM conference coming up in September in Chicago. I certainly will be there, and many of us that are on this call hopefully will be at C5 this year, C5 plus CCIM. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it, as well as Dimitro, Ahmed, Bill. All of us are here to answer your questions. We will be ending the recording, and you will have an opportunity to network and advertise your top priority. I will be jumping off myself as I am at exchange meetings in Vegas, but happy to answer any questions after at any time. So thank you very much for everyone attending today's session.